Wag!
Tonight, 7 people are injured in the collapse of the Pigatan Bridge in Alcala, Cagayan. Philippine President Marcos Jr. says the resignation of government officials linked to a public works kickback scandal will not free them from potential liability. Lawmakers and legal experts reject a proposal by Philippine Senator Alan Peter Cayetano to hold snap elections as a way to restore public trust in government. And the Philippines extends a ban on rice imports until the end of 2025. Good evening. I'm Tony Velasquez. On our broadcast tonight, another bridge collapses in the northern Philippines, the second such incident in the region since February. The Pigatan Bridge in Alcala, Cagayan fell while 3 large cargo trucks were crossing. Municipal Disaster Agency officials say at least 7 people were hurt. The Public Works Department said the total weight of the trucks and their cargo far exceeded the 18-ton capacity of the bridge. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon has ordered a thorough damage assessment. Monday's incident happened some 8 months after the collapse of the Cabagan Santa Maria Bridge in Isabela. It was also blamed on overloaded trucks. This latest mishap took place amid a massive public works scandal involving billions of pesos in kickbacks to officials and contractors for substandard and non-existent flood control projects.
Umagsak yung isang bridge sa Pigatan, Alcala, one of the sa national highway ng Cagayan connecting to Gigarao and Apari. Itong bridge na ito ay may kalumaan na nagsabay yung dalawang truck na may lulan na palay na around 40 to 50 tons at isang truck na may lulan na 40 tons na bakal. Yung bridge is only good for 25 tons. So, bumagsak.
Philippine President Marcos Jr. vows to hold guilty officials accountable for the massive theft of funds for flood control projects. He insists none of the officials linked to the scandal are already off the hook after resigning their government posts. Katrina Domingo reports.
That's not enough. There is a great deal of damage that has been caused, not only financial damage or economic damage, but actual damage to people's lives. I mean, how can you live with that? I can't live with it, so I won't live with it. So we'll keep pushing.
This was the guarantee of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. when asked if officials linked to anomalous flood control projects can go scot-free and skirt accountability after stepping down from their posts. The president made no mention of particular officials, but Zaldico, the founder of SunWest Construction linked to substandard flood control projects, resigned as Ako Bicol party list representative last month. Later, Representative Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, the president's cousin, also stepped down as House Speaker after an alleged bagman claimed to have delivered millions of pesos stashed in suitcases to one of his houses. Both Romualdez and Co have denied the allegations. Despite this, the president is firm that the government will continue to hound officials who were involved in pocketing public funds through anti-flood programs, even if investigations land on the backyards of his allies.
There's always been a sniff and the suspicion of corruption in government, the different, but not this scale. That was the shocking part. And I said, nothing will happen to the Philippines if we carry on this way. The reason I brought it up and made it part of the national discourse was quite simply because this could not go on.
In a speech delivered before government officials and representatives of international loan and aid providers, Marcos Jr. committed that his administration will not tolerate the misuse of public funds.
We will not tolerate measurement without action, nor will we tolerate the wastage of public funds.
The president says the 255 billion pesos initially allocated for flood control projects in the 2026 national budget will instead be used to construct hospitals, broaden the coverage of state health insurer PhilHealth, strengthen the agricultural sector, replenish funds for social amelioration programs, and build more classrooms to address the deficit of proper learning spaces in the country. Data from the DepEd show that the Philippines' classroom backlog is pegged at 165,000.
Isa sa napakagandang programa na dapat tutukan ng ating gobyerno ay bigyang pansin din ang mga pangangailangan ng ating mga guro, lalo na sa classroom. Sa ganitong pamamaraan, nabibigyan din natin o natutugunan natin ng solusyon yung mga problemang kinakaharap sa klase.
The president has ordered the Education and Public Works departments to speed up the planning and construction of classrooms to meet the administration's target of building some 40,000 new classrooms before the Marcos Jr. administration ends in 2028. Katrina Domingo, ABS-CBN News.
The Philippine Public Works chief orders an examination of so-called shadow flood control projects in the 2025 national budget. A study by the University of the Philippines uncovered a 115 billion peso allocation for projects not included in the government's flood control management program. Secretary Vince Dizon vows to inspect every flood mitigation project despite the sheer number of government programs involved.
Nakuha ko yung report nung weekend, no, at posible yung sinasabi nga, no, na apart dun sa budget na nakagagay flood control, merong iba na posibleng related sa flood control tulad ng drainage, slope protection, at iba pa. Yan din ay titignan natin yan.
Legal experts dismiss the snap election proposal of Philippine Senate Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano. The senator has suggested that this is the only way for government to recover the public's trust in the wake of a massive kickback scandal. RG Cruz reports.
Senate Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano floated over the weekend the idea of the country's top officials, the President, Vice President, and Congress resigning en masse to pave the way for snap elections after the loss of public trust. Some of the officials concerned rejected it outright, with the palace calling it wishful thinking. Palace spokesperson Claire Castro said the president has no time for this kind of politicking, especially as the country recovers from natural calamities. Constitutionalist, retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Adolfo Sevilla Ascuna warns it is dangerous.
Its own danger in the sense na baka magkaroon ng vacuum sa governance natin dahil yung mga incumbent baka ayaw na nila gumawa ng tungkulin nila dahil papalitan na sila. Samantalang yung mga papalit wala pa. So there is a possible paralysis na mangyari sa gobyerno natin. So medyo delikado yan. Even the good officials will have to be taken out under this plan. Sayang naman, they are good and baka yung ipapalit not as good.
Other legal experts rejected it as well.
There is no prohibition for these public officials to run again in a snap election, and it will be unconstitutional to disqualify them en masse.
Right.
So there is no legal way to implement that proposal of Senator Cayetano.
Ang snap election maaari lamang mangyari yan kung meron tayong revolutionary government na kung saan ay napatalsik ang buong pamahalaan, katulad ng nangyari noong EDSA People Power 1.
Cayetano's colleagues also disagreed with the proposal. Senate President Vicente Soto III warns holding snap elections would plunge the country into uncertainty and chaos, noting there is no constitutional or legal framework for such a move. While Senator Panfilo Lacson points out holding snap elections could fuel more corruption, as candidates might resort to vote buying using taxpayers' money. Several congressmen also chimed in. Akbayan Representative Percival Sendanya said holding a snap election will not be able to address the public's call for accountability. He stressed that the government should instead investigate, file cases, and jail corrupt officials.
Ito panawagan para sa snap election, sa tingin ko dito medyo tone deaf.
Ang panawagan ng taong bayan ay accountability, panagutin yung mga nagnakaw sa kaban ng bayan. Hindi eleksyon ang sagot dito.
Cayetano walked back his comments on Monday, saying he only wanted a clean slate because the system is broken. Cayetano added he only wanted the officials he mentioned to discern and think about radical solutions. RG Cruz, ABS-CBN News.
Philippine Senate President Tito Soto brushes off alleged efforts to unseat him after Senator Panfilo Lacson quit as Blue Ribbon Committee chairman. Lacson's move is seen by a former Senate president as a sacrifice meant to head off a shakeup in the chamber's leadership. RG Cruz returns with this report.
Senator Panfilo Lacson has officially resigned as chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee of the Senate. In his resignation letter, Lacson cited the disappointment of his colleagues over his handling of the flood control probe. Lacson adds some senators are pursuing the narrative that he's zeroing in on several of his colleagues while protecting the members of the House. Lacson insists the narrative is false, adding he has no political plans when his term ends in 2031. Former Senate President Franklin Drilon calls Lacson's move a gambit to prevent another possible coup in the chamber.
I call this what has happened or what has happened yesterday and over the past 2 days as the King's Gambit. Tito can lose his presidency. If he loses his presidency, what are we talking about as chairman of the Blue Ribbon? Ping Lacson will be changed. So as a gambit, he says, I quit. I do not know if Tito knows this, but hopefully, but in the mindset or in the calculation of Ping, hopefully he's quitting the Blue Ribbon Committee, appeases or addresses the concerns of his fellow senators, and therefore would maintain Tito Soto as Senate President.
Drilon adds Senate President Vicente Soto III's second Senate presidency is unstable.
I heard earlier Senator Ejercito, saying that he is not happy with the way the probe is being handled. Now, you have a 15-9 majority. Part of the 15 is Pia Cayetano. Now, don't tell me that if Alan seeks the Senate presidency, Pia will not vote for him. Now you have JV Ejercito saying that he and four more would bolt the majority.
But Soto disagrees, expressing confidence he still enjoys the support of the majority bloc.
You know, everybody's entitled to his own opinion, so whatever they say, it's up to them if that's their opinion. But as far as I'm concerned, and my opinion is, the Senate is stable. Both majority and minority. The other day, nagkausap kami ni Senator Alan at nababanggit na rin yan eh. Sabi niya nga, siya mismo nagsabi sa akin, wala naman akong kinakausap kahit sino eh, sabi rin niya.
He also doesn't see the need for a loyalty check.
Any senator who is elected into the leadership only serve at the pleasure of your colleagues, of your peers.
Soto believes Lacson's decision to step down as Blue Ribbon chair may have been spurred by his frustration over the hearings.
You know, Senator Lacson is frustrated. He's not stressed. Sanay sa stress yun eh. Yeah. Pero ang nakikita niya, frustrated because pag-hearing siya, may umaangal. Bakit nag-hearing? Pag hindi siya nag-hearing, may umaangal. Ba't hindi nag-hearing? Ano ba talaga?
Soto believes there are at least 3 senators who can take Lacson's place as Blue Ribbon chairman. Lacson's successor will now have to decide on how to handle the invitations to resign partylist lawmaker Zaldi Co and former Speaker Martin Romualdez. Both former House leaders were tagged in alleged kickbacks involving flood control funds. Co and Romualdez have denied the accusations. Meanwhile, the CBCP called on public officials to uphold the integrity of ongoing inquiries into the scandal. The CBCP also says it opposes any attempt to preempt or derail the investigation through backroom deals, leadership takeovers, or selective justice. It also voices support for the work being done by the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, calling on government leaders to support the fact-finding body. RG Cruz, ABS-CBN News.
The Philippine Judicial and Bar Council is recommending to the President 7 applicants for the position of Ombudsman. It has shortlisted former Audit Commission Chair Michael Aguinaldo, retired Appellate Court Justice Stephen Cruz, Supreme Court Associate Justice Samuel Garlan, Deputy Executive Secretary Annalisa Logan, retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Mario Lopez, Sandigan Bayan Associate Justice Michael Frederick Musngi, and Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla. 17 had initially applied for the ombudsman's post. President Marcos Jr. will pick the successor of Ombudsman Samuel Martires, who retired in July. Evacuees in quake-hit areas of northern Cebu are reluctant to return to their homes in fear of numerous aftershocks that have been felt since last week's powerful tremor. The story from Bianca Dava.
The front portion of the Archdiocesan Church of Santa Rosa de Lima in Daan Bantayan, Cebu, is barely recognizable after the magnitude 6.9 earthquake. The church was built back in 1886. According to Divina Valiente, coordinator for chapels of the church, it was a miracle that no one in their town died despite the strong quake.
Maraming damage talaga. Pag nakita niyo yung front view, nakita mo yung destroyed upper part of the church until the bottom. Talagang guba, napakasakit pa talaga.
With the extent of the damage, Valiente said restoration works could take up to 3 years. A temporary place of worship will be built outside the ruins while repairs are underway. Still in Daan Bantayan, this bridge in Suba Poblacion has been closed after large cracks were found on its structure. Many families still choose to stay outside their homes for fear of aftershocks. Among them is the Conchas family, who share bananas and coconuts to passing motorists as a way of giving thanks they survived the disaster. Relief goods continue to arrive in Cebu. On Monday, the Bureau of Customs sent various types of tents, sacks of rice, and mobile power supply units. The tents and power supplies are among the forfeited goods previously confiscated by the agency.
Magpapadala tayo ng mahigit 1,000 plus na mga tents na kailangan natin mga kababayan at plus 50 tents na malalaki at ang mga bigas at ang importante yung power supply, meron din tayo papadala dahil kailangan nila doon. Dahil may mga lugar doon, intermittent pa yung supply nila ng kuryente.
The Philippine National Police is also helping set up and maintain peace and order in tent cities that will serve as temporary homes for earthquake-displaced families.
Pag na-set up na yung tent city, nag-establish tayo ng mga police assistance desk para ma-monitor natin yung peace and order doon sa mga tent city.
More than 1,500 police personnel are currently deployed in northern Cebu. As of now, more than 7,000 aftershocks have been recorded following the main earthquake, ranging between magnitude 1 and 5.1. According to FIVOX, the aftershocks could last for several months.
Normal po na may aftershocks pagkatapos ng malakas na lindol and pwede po itong tumagal ng ilang linggo o buwan. Pero habang tumatagal naman, pahina ng pahina ang mga ito at habang bumababa ang stress sa fault.
While the FIVOX continues to monitor the aftershocks, residents are advised to be wary of ground ruptures or the fissures on the ground due to the fault's movement. In the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV offered his prayers for the victims of the earthquake.
I express my closeness to the dear people of the Philippines. In a special way, I pray for all those who are badly challenged by the consequences of this earthquake. Let us remain united and in solidarity, our trust in God.
Bianca Dava, ABS-CBN News, Daan Bantayan, Cebu.
Disaster strikes relief efforts for quake victims in Cebu. 2 vehicles carrying relief aid collided along a major highway in Balamban City. A 10-year-old child was among 10 people who were injured. An initial investigation shows the accident happened when a pickup truck rear-ended an SUV and overturned. We're taking a short break. We'll have more stories when The World Tonight returns. We're back on the World Tonight. The chief Philippine graft buster orders the 6-month preventive suspension of San Simon, Pampanga Mayor Abundio Punsalan Jr. for alleged graft and extortion. The ombudsman issued the order on September 15. It acted on administrative complaints filed by the National Bureau of Investigation and a steel manufacturing firm. The mayor allegedly demanded 80 million pesos from the company in exchange for retaining its local tax incentives. He was arrested during an NBI entrapment operation in August. Punsalan pleaded not guilty to charges of graft and extortion during his arraignment at the Sandigan Bayan Anti-Graft Court last week. The death toll from last week's collapse of an Islamic boarding school in East Java has risen to 54. Rescue teams are still searching for 13 people believed to be trapped under the rubble. The school collapsed while construction work was being done on its upper floors. 3 scientists win this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine for their groundbreaking discovery in immunology. The award goes to Mary Branco, Fred Ramsdell, and Shimon Sakaguchi. The 3 were recognized for their work on regulatory T cells. Their research revealed how these cells help the body control its immune response and prevent it from attacking itself. The discovery has inspired over 200 clinical trials aimed at developing new treatments for cancer and autoimmune diseases. The Philippine ban on rice imports is extended until the end of the year. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel says the country still has a sufficient buffer stock from surplus imports brought in within the past 9 months. Chu Laurel says imports may be allowed to resume by January. Another import ban may take effect from February to April during the country's harvest season. The Philippine stock market opened this week on a negative note ahead of the release of the country's inflation rate on Tuesday and the central bank's rate-setting meeting. Michelle Ong reports.
Asian markets supercharged to an all-time high Monday, led by Japan after a pro-stimulus lawmaker emerged as the country's next leader over the weekend. MSCI's regional stock gauge advancing for a 6th straight day. Here at home, Philippine shares started the week on the back foot ahead of the release of September inflation print on Tuesday, widely expected to show an uptick, but still staying within the government's target range. Analysts also split whether the BSP will leave its policy rate steady at 5% or cut again after already cutting rates 3 times this year.
What we really saw is more of a what the technicians would call a dead cat bounce. I think when the market fell below the 6,000 support level and it did not go beyond or below the 5,900 level, we eventually, investors and even institutional saw it as an opportunity to, load a little, given the fact that the market has been trading for a while between a low of 6,000 and probably closer to 6,500 this year. So eventually at 6,100, the market's losing steam. Again, with all of these floodgate scandal.
In corporate stories, ICTSI subsidiaries Subic Bay International Terminals and ICTSI Subic, collectively known as Subic Bay International Terminals, are granted an extension of their respective concessions by the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, or SBMA, allowing the continued operation of new container terminals 1 and 2 until the year 2058. Subic Bay International Terminals, for its part, set to invest over $130 million in civil infrastructure and additional equipment to enhance terminal capabilities and efficiency, as well as increase its combined annual capacity from 600,000 20-foot equivalent units to 1 million TEUs. Meanwhile, the automotive financing and leasing arm of GT Capital launched its 2 billion peso maiden bond public offering. Toyota Financial Services Philippines says proceeds will be used to further diversify its funding sources and support its anticipated asset growth. In other news, Security Bank has inaugurated its Angeles Friendship branch in Pampanga, further expanding its footprint in central Luzon. This is the bank's 360th location. Meanwhile, Maynilad Water has submitted its preliminary prospectus for its planned initial public offering with the PSC and SEC this coming November, paving the way for the start of its roadshow to institutional investors in the coming days. The water concessionaire looking to raise 45.8 billion pesos or $437 million in the biggest IPO in the country since 2021 when Mondanisin raised $1 billion. And more fundraising news, Metro Pacific Tollways has filed a registration statement with the SEC for its proposed offer to the public of up to 15 billion pesos in fixed-rate bonds, with an oversubscription option of up to 5 billion to be issued in 3 series with tenors of 3, 5, and or 10 years. The target public offer period will run from November 17 to 21, with listing on the PDEX set for December 2. Michelle Long, ABS-CBN News.
Our final word tonight is a quote from Boyan Slat. For society to progress, we should not only move forward, but also clean up after ourselves. And that is the world tonight, the 6th of October, 2025. I'm Tony Velasquez. ABS-CBN News Channel is now available for live and on-demand streaming on iWant. From the Philippines, thank you. Mabuhay!
Madlang people! Sama-sama tayong bumangon ng may saya at maging tulay ng pag-asa. It's showtime!